Hey, welcome everybody. Summer's Education Connection. We're the Planet Drum live to you. Hey everybody, it's episode 27. Playing for the session. I'm here with three of the greatest guys and most killer drummers on the planet. Jeremy Steinkoler up in the Bay Area. Hey Jeremy. Woohoo.
Hey guys.
We got Bart Robley. He's right above you there, Bart. Bart Robley in Southern California. And Chip Ritter out in Arizona.
Oh, I pointed the wrong way. Sorry, pointed the wrong way. We're backwards. There we are.
We're like the Brady Bunch for drums.
I'm poking him in the ear right now.
Oh my God. Hey, we're just so grateful that everybody's watching, and we just really, really appreciate it. All of the support just means the world to us. This is our 27th episode.
Wow.
And you can go back on YouTube. Yeah, that's over 27 hours of content for you. That's free. You can go back on the YouTube channel, Drummers Education Connection, and go back and view all of the previous episodes. And we're just gearing up. We're really into this. We're having so much fun. And it's because of all the support from all of you. So we greatly appreciate it. And then feel free on the Facebook group for drum teachers to type us any questions or make any comments. And the same on
Jan
Facebook.
Bass is watching. And David Betts is here.
David Betts.
Jan Bass. What's up,
Jan?
Jan.
I know Jan. Jan's a great drummer.
Look at all the goodness there.
Awesome.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. So if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to let us to type in, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. And man, we're just one big drum family, aren't we? And big shout out to Aquarian. I know Aquarian, Chris Brady hooked us up with a bunch of drum heads today that we're going to sample for you all to hear. And this episode, whoa.
All this stuff. Look at all that. Look at all that.
Are we giving that away?
You know what we're going to do is
I give you my address right now.
Right. Hey, actually, I got something coming in the mail for you anyhow, Chip. I'm actually at the end of the show. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to give some stuff away. Normally, when whoever wins the drumhead, I send the name and the address to Chris. But what we're going to do today is at the end of the show, I'm going to give all this stuff away, and I'm going to play 5 different snare drum heads. I'm going to play 5 different snare drum heads today, and I can't talk today. And whichever one, whoever wins the head, which one they like, I'll pull off the drum, and it doesn't matter. And I'll send you that drum head. Yeah.
Jan Bass said we love Chris Beatty from Aquarian. And David Betts said, great jazz sessions earlier for Jeremy Steinkoler.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Ooh, yeah.
Did you already do those?
I think what he's referring to is on Sunday, 2 days ago, in my neighborhood, there was like a sort of local music festival. They called it Covidchella. And they had local bands in the area playing in driveways. And so, yeah, I know, Covidchella. So I did like an hour-long session with my son, Evan, who's a jazz piano player. He's 15 years old. So we did a jazz duo out on our porch, and people were sitting on along with chairs and stuff, socially distanced. It was great.
That's great, man.
Yeah, it was really fun.
I tell you what, music is starting to come back. It's super exciting, and we hope everybody's preparing themselves and have been preparing and being productive this past year. So we need to get pumped up, man. Jeremy, will you give us a little New Orleans drum vibe? Could you do that?
Some of that stuff,
yeah, we need some groove to get ourselves going.
Right, hang on a minute. Hang on.
Man, we want to hear this.
Hello, Jacob Sosa. Thanks for tuning in.
Jacob Sosa in my hometown. Here's my Jacob Sosa story. I never met the guy, but I know Bob Rupp. I've known him for years. Bob Rupp bought a drum for me a million years ago when he was running the place out of his apartment, man. So I'm from Colorado, grew up in Littleton. So Jacob, you're the best.
Right on, Jacob. Thanks for watching, man.
Let's hear it. that's beautiful.
He's up in the Bay Area, and I'm down in Fullerton. He made me shake my butt.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Nice.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
That's the music's coming back groove.
Exactly.
So
The music's coming back.
Last week we did a session on playing for the song, which was really fun. We
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. That was 2 weeks ago. Last week was the amazing Daniel Glass. If you haven't seen that one, folks, check that one out. Daniel is a master drummer and historian, and just had so much wisdom to share. So 2 weeks ago we did a playing for the song episode, and each of us kind of did a little demo. Bart kind of like on charts. Jeremy did a lot of swing things. I did some acoustic electronic things. And we thought we'd do a little follow-up on playing for the song today, but more of a focus on the drum sound and how we get the sound. So this episode will be a little bit heady, but mainly talking about a lot of different drum heads. I know it's pretty bad. Really
Playing
bad.
for the Jacob said that was groovy, Jeremy.
Oh, thanks, pal. That means
Yeah,
thank you.
it was groovy. So, so where do we want to start? Bart, you have some snare drums
I do.
that you want to demo? What do you got over there, man? Show us all those toys.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with this. First of all, I am a Gretsch guy. I've been endorsed by Gretsch for many years, and I love Gretsch. Snare drums are an accessory, so I have a whole bunch of different brands of snare drums here today that I'm playing, just to get different tones. There we go. Look at that. Oh man, is that an old round badge? What is that? That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's an old round badge from the '60s. This is one of my gig snares. Yeah,
dude, I'm gonna come steal that from you. That
you
is. I bet that sounds like $1 million. Anyway, so the snare drum. And then look at Chip. Chip has his own signature snare drum. That's not fair, man. Chip's got it. It's got his own signature snare drum. So I got to get one of those too.
Gosh,
So, as a lot of us know, in a session, when you're in a recording session, you can change the entire dynamic of the sound of the drum set just by changing the snare drum itself. And the drum and the drum head, all these things come into play, and there's all kinds of different things we can do to mute the drums, to open the drums up, all this stuff to make them just sound different, right? And it'll make the whole drum kit come to life in a different way. You can take a song, record it, change out the snare drum, put a different drum on, play the same exact song, and listen to playback, and it's a completely different song. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to show a few different heads here. You can hear this one. It's kind of hard to get the sticks to rebound on this one because it's tuned so low. This is an Aquarian triple threat. Now the triple threat, a lot of guys think, well, it's a 3-ply head, so it's kind of dead sounding and it'll be stiff to play. Not really. It's kind of tough to play right now because I've got it tuned low and it's kind of gaddy sounding. Did you find it there, Rick?
No, I don't have I've got my collection of 10-inch heads. I don't have the triple threat in 10-inch.
Okay.
But
so
that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, this drum is pretty gaddy sounding. And what I've done, it's wide open. I do have a studio ring sitting on the drum without the studio ring. Little ringy, but here it's kind of, and again, it's a little bit hard to get the sticks to respond because it's so loose, but it's very, very gaddy sounding.
Woo! Woo!
So now here's the thing.
Nice
Thank you,
man. Woo!
Before we got on the air, in Rick's book, is that which book was that? Finding the Groove.
That's volume 2.
Volume 2. So he has 50 ways transcribed in there. And I told him, I'm like, okay, I'm going to play 50 ways. And he holds it up and I start playing it. And then all of a sudden I realized I was getting analyzed by 3 of the greatest drummers in the world on GAD. And then I realized, wait a second, I got to play GAD, or I'm going to try to play GAD in front of a bunch of drummers watching.
We definitely had a geek out session.
We had a geek out section, and I didn't know if I really wanted to play GAD or if I wanted to cut my arm and go stick it in a pool with a bunch of sharks. You know, so anyway, so there's the GAD sounding head, the triple threat. Now the next one,
Bart, wait, you hit on something really, really great though. That's what we love about the drumming community, and that everybody's a part of this. It's just like we're not out to bash each other. We're always trying to help each other. And, you know, it's a big confusing puzzle. What did that drummer play? You know? And so it's just so cool that everybody's always trying to contribute and help each other out. And that's what we just want to encourage in the drumming community.
Totally. And you know what is so cool is like I think we talked about this the other day. I don't know if it was on air or not, or when we were off, but with Daniel. And we're talking about doing clinics and how incredibly petrifying it is to play a clinic, you know. And I don't think it's petrifying because to play in front of your friends and your peers, because they want you to do well. They don't want to see you crash. They're coming there to learn and stuff. But still, I mean, I remember one time I remember watching Chip at the Hollywood Drum Show get up there and throw down, and I was just so impressed. You know, like, gosh, man, that's great. Anyway, so now the next
wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
I went to a Steve Smith clinic once, and you know, Steve Smith, one of the best drummers on the planet, right? Guy is like a scholar and can play any style and just monster drummer. And he warmed up for a good half hour before the clinic. I could hear him through the door. I was listening to what he was doing to warm up, and I asked him afterwards about his warm up. He's like, "Well, yeah, man, I was about to play for like 30 or 40 drummers. You know, I want to be so." Even at the top level.
Even at the top level. Hey, Bart, a thing I noticed on that snare that you played, the difference in pitch with and without the ring. Could you demo that again so people can hear that, or did you already switch drums?
I switched drums, but I'm going to demo it right now on this drum because this is another, and that was actually a 5 1/4 inch drum. This one's a 5 1/4 inch drum as well. And the head that's on this one is just a single ply coated now, and it's tuned up nice and tight on this one. Now listen, you can really hear that one ring, right? Can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
All right. So a minute ago, there's a lot of different things that we can do to kill the sound of the ring. So here's a studio ring. This is a nice, easy one. Just kind of, right? That really kills the ring. If we want a little bit more thuddy sound, now here's one. I'm going to bring the camera back up. You know what? Because of StreamYard, normally I switch cameras around, but StreamYard, I'm not allowed to switch cameras around. They don't enable that. I'm going to start with this one. This is a cool trick, and I'm starting with this one because long story, but basically my bass player, Greg Kasparian, and myself, Greg's the one that thought of it, and then I talked to Aquarian about it. This is called the kick patch. The kick patch is like having a spare tire for your car, and I came up, Greg came up with the idea, and he and I talked, and then I went to Aquarian. So between the two of us and Aquarian Drumheads, they made the kick patch. This is an amazing product, and it's a thick piece of Mylar that's really sticky on the back. And basically, we were hosting a NAMM jam. The group that I play for, the Sam Morrison Band, was hosting a NAMM jam. And it was one where Chip came out and played, and had a ton of drummers at this particular NAMM jam. And I always have a backup snare drum and stuff. And my bass player goes, "What are you going to do if somebody breaks your bass drum head?" And well, I didn't think of that, did I? So anyway, I had an extra snare drum head. But this is a kick patch. If you go through the head on the gig, it's like a spare tire. You stick it on there, and it will play. But it's not just for that, man. Look, okay, so here's this wide open head, right? Very ringy. We want a little bit dead thud sound. Now look, it went from a really high-pitched, ringy sound, right, to a kind of dead sound, and back to that almost a gaddish type of sound, right?
Lower pitch.
Right, really low pitch. And all I did was I set it on the drum, right? So you can, you got a song that you don't want to change out the drum. You're playing a gig, you're playing a session, you want a little bit deader sound. So literally, You could do that in the middle of a song if you have to. Now, the way that this came about was because of the Duradot, which is, kind of the same thing. This one's got a little bit of texture on it, but same thing. All right, a little bit less dead sounding. And then another Duradot, same thing, but no texture. It's a clear one, a little bit smaller. And this stuff is some of the stuff I'll be sending out for whoever wins the head today. So I'm going to move these out of the way. We also have these that I'll be sending out, and I already have some prepped and ready to go. The tone tabs. Okay, now the tone tabs are great because, okay, let's go back to our wide open snare drum here. Okay, there's our wide open snare drum. Now, if a lot of times people think, well, if I put one tone tab on there, it's going to change the sound, and it will. It deadens it a little bit. So, but if I want even a little bit deader, a lot of people will think, well, I'm going to put 4 or 5. No, you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you put one there, and then just take another one and kind of overlap it, right? So now, right? And that's a real nice snare drum sound, right? And all I did, it's a single ply, texture coated, super responsive, right? Head, and it's dead. Also,
nice,
with
man.
Thank you, with the wood hoops, right?
Yeah.
Right, real nice sound. So,
wow.
And I'm a big fan of wood hoops. I have 2 snare drums with wood hoops on them. Great for side sticks. This one, I mean, you can tell this drum has seen a bazillion miles of hard road. Look at that thing, man. It's true.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Right, great drum.
Wow.
Now this one, okay, now
Bart,
check this.
Bart, I have, by the way, one of my favorite heads, one of my go-to snare heads and tom heads is the texture coated, but with a power dot. And so you can see they've got a little power dot and it's underneath. So the top is still smooth. You can play it with brushes, and that just takes out just a tad of overtone. So this is just like a great way to still have an open sound with a subtle bit of muffling. So this is one of my favorites.
Those are great heads, and I do like that Aquarium puts the dot on the bottom, because then your brushes don't get stuck in it,
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
dude, can you take the tone tab? I don't want to throw you off, but can you take the tone tab? And I've put them on the cymbals before too.
Oh yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay,
yeah, let's do that.
I wish I could switch my camera. So anyway, I got some tone tabs and a snare drum and a stick, so I can do it. So here's my ride cymbal. Let's say, like in this case, this is a real. I have a bunch of ride cymbals like I do snare drums. We all do. This is a Sabian AAX hand hammered raw bell. So it's a rocker, man. This great bell. But let's say I wanted to play some jazz. I mean, I could do it, but it's a little bright for that. So yeah, you can take the tone tabs, and I'll just put one on. Now listen to the difference. I put one on, just one tone tab. Really deadens it. 2 tone tabs.
Real quick. Yeah. Real quick, I just wanted to say we had a comment from Ramon Montagur. Said, thanks for the Aquarian drum head. Jan Bass said, my pal James from Aquarium were testing prototypes of the kick patch years ago. Great idea, Bart. And then Brad Sluter said, I love the reverse dot head.
Yeah, isn't that great? I mean, totally, I think that, a lot of that stuff, I mean, it's really nice to be, part of something with Aquarium. But the cool thing about the Aquarium fans, kind of turned into an Aquarium commercial, but we're all Aquarium guys. They're amazing heads, but it's like a family. You go over there and they want to hang out and they listen to your ideas, and a lot of those simple ideas, like, putting the dot on the bottom of the head. That's Roy Burns himself,
Yeah, Roy.
So
go ahead, Jeremy. You got a question?
Not a question. I just wanted to jump in with a comment just to frame the whole discussion that we're having here. So last time we talked about playing for the song in terms of parts, coming up with parts. We talked about dynamics and swing and busyness and sparseness and listening to the music and all that. And what we're after today is talking about the sound of the kit, how we make the instrument interact with the music. And so all these things that Bart's going over, his different snare drums, the different heads, the different tunings, different dampenings, devices. And we're going to keep doing that for the rest of today. This is all in an effort to help you think about how you dial in your sound for the music you're playing, right? Most amateur drummers, when they sit down at the drum set, they don't think very much about how they make the instrument sound. They're thinking mostly about patterns, coordination, parts, right? And once you reach a certain level, you start to be much more aware of how you make the overall sound of your instrument and how that interacts with the music and the effect it has on the music, the character it imbues the music with.
Right.
And if you're going to be a session drummer, if you're going to play in bands, you have to have this stuff. You have to have your sound under control. So take it away, Bart. Keep going.
There it is.
Oh, well, no, thank you for that. You know what, Jeremy? One of the things, what you just said, I heard Famularo talk about it one time, this subject, and he was talking about, okay, you got a picture frame hanging on your wall, right? And the picture frame falls off and it breaks, and it's a frame that you got from your mom. You love that picture frame. You're not going to go get a sledgehammer and try to hammer it back together, you know. But then at the same time, you got a piece of concrete in your backyard you want to break up and throw away. You're not going to go get a little tack hammer and try to bake up the concrete, right? You're going to use the right tool for the right job. And that's what this is about. This is about using the right tool for the right job. And this applies to drums, to cymbals, to sticks. Yeah, look at your stick. That's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
That's a candy store.
And now, so let me go to this drum. This is a 6.5. Yeah. Look at that. Black. Well, actually, this is a big black. This is a pork pie, black.
Pork pie.
Yeah. And I tell you what, though, you got to be trying to not make it sound like a Black Beauty. This is a Super Kick 2. This is a bass drum.
Oh, it's the Super Kick 2 on the snare.
Yeah. Now check this out. So I have the great opportunity to do recording with Sam Morrison and record producer Michael Blum. And we've done a lot of re-records, and I learned so much about that. Re-records or songs that were famous, and then they get reused in television, commercial, motion picture, whatever. They want to re-record it. And they want different sounds. So I learned a lot from that. Fast forward a few years, and Sam calls me up one day and he goes, "Hey man, there's a movie coming out and they need a song for it. And I want to pitch a song, and it's got to sound like an old 70s Waylon Jennings tune." Okay. And so we really need to get this Waylon Jennings type of sound, okay, for this recording. And so if any of you guys know Waylon Jennings music with Richie Albright playing drums, they were shadowing a song called Lonesome, Ornery, and Mean. Now, pretty much every Waylon Jennings song just has that pumping 4 on the floor, 1970s, dead as a doornail, dead snare drum, okay? You got to play this thing like you mean it. I mean, you got to lay into this drum, but man, the cool thing is it still has response because it's tuned up tight. Doesn't sound like it is, but it is. And so that 4 on the floor, that Waylon Jennings, dong, 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 dong. And I did nothing to this drum other than put a head on it, throw a microphone at it, and beat it like it owes me money, man. That's it. I mean, that's so the Aquarian Super Kick for snare drum, and that's what it is, man. It's just, Super Kick for snare drum. So there's that one,
right? And that, like that white strip underneath, that's
felt.
That's like a little foam.
Yeah, it's felt
that they have. It's like a little felt thing. Yeah.
You can kind of see it there if I hold it just right. Okay. It's pretty thick. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, if I was going to use this live, maybe like as a side snare for that very purpose, Okay, now this next one, this is another 6.5-inch deep drum. Okay, and this is the Aquarian Modern Vintage.
Modern vintage.
That's what I've got on
my
my Brooks kit right here. I got Modern Vintage on those right there.
Modern Vintage.
Right.
Yep.
Now, what I like about the Modern Vintage, they really do, you know, kind of. And now this is wide open, no dampening, no nothing, so you can hear the ring, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, just for the sake of time, I'm going to throw a studio ring on there to deaden it. That sound okay over there?
Yeah.
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 And if I want a little deader, I still got my 2 tone tabs. I can throw those on there. You know, and because this is a supraphonic and it's 6.5 inches deep and kind of an old school head, the Modern Vintage, I kind of think it's very, very Bonham-esque.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Very, very thuddy sounding. Great sounding head.
Yeah. Dude,
And
I
then
am all about the Modern Vintage heads, Bart. That's what I use. This is my Ludwig Coliseum snare.
Oh, look
that I
at
got.
that.
Yeah.
Is that a 13?
My early band.
Is that a
this is
13?
14 by 8-inch deep.
Wow.
Hit that thing. Let me
All
hear
my
it.
earlier recordings, and I've got the Modern Vintage 2 on there.
Man.
It's
Nice.
got cut, and it's got that low pitch, and it's got that attack, and it's got just that earthy, you know, touch of like an old school calfskin kind of head vibe too.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
and you know what? And I don't have to do anything to it. I don't have to muffle it. I mean, it is just perfect, good to go. And I have this on toms and the snare, and I do like the look, like that's consistent. And check this out. This drum head, okay.
Look at that.
This was my studio. This was at my studio. Played for over 800 hours by all of my students. This was on the Ludwig Superphonic from November 2018 to August 2019, and I had all my students.
Wow.
Yeah, I had all my students sign it who played on it.
I love that.
So thank you to
That
every
is
drummer
so
who's
cool,
on here.
man.
Yeah, and you know what? This thing was still just sounding so good.
Yeah.
I just took it off because cosmetically, you know, eventually after 800 hours, you know, some of the coating peeled away, which was still a cool look. But I just thought it would be fun to retire this guy. And
it's hard to let go of a drum head when it's sounding good.
Right.
Right.
Isn't
I
it?
know.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
man, talk about durability. Yeah.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
one
Bart.
more here. I got one more. Now I know when I say this, my buddy Chip Ritter he's gonna jump out of his skin and go, yes! Like that. He's gonna do that. He's gonna make that sound and everything. I don't know how I know, I just know. So this one right here is my Gretsch maple brass. No, you didn't. Not yet, dude. I got the Focus X on this one. Now go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is like my dude. This is my baby. There you go. There's a Chip Ritter Signature Series trick snare drum. I need to talk to my buddy Mike Dorfman and get one of those. And the great thing about this drum, you know what? And this drum head, I like the drum because it's maple, brass maple. So you kind of get the wood and the brass sound. There's nothing on that drum. That's just the head. Yep. Right? Just the head. Nothing on it. Has a built-in. It's basically, if you look at the bottom of a Focus X, I should have had one that I had off the drum. Basically got like a ring on the bottom. You got one there, Rick?
Yeah.
There you go.
And what it's got is a vented muffling ring tucked underneath the hoop.
You know why they vented it? Roy told me one time. You know why they vented that?
Why did they do that?
They did at first when they made the head, they didn't vent it. And that was just, they built the ring onto the bottom of the head. And when you'd play it, you get a buzz, you get a bzz, bzz. And so when they put the holes in there, I guess it stopped it from buzzing. That's what he said. It's like, wow, that's cool.
Wow.
But anyway, so there's the Focus X, and man, you know, you can do anything with it. I mean, it sounds great, right? It just sounds great. So,
yeah.
So anyway, I could go on for days and yak forever, but there's all these heads that Aquarian gave me, and man, they are such awesome people. They're such great heads, and really more than anything, I know it's kind of turned into this Aquarian thing, which is fine with me, you know. But I'll tell you what. It's true. You can see, guys, I played 5 different snare drums on the same drum kit, and hopefully you guys kind of got that it was 5 different total sounds, right? I mean, it's just completely 5 different sounds. So
here's a question for you guys. This will be fun. Each of you in 30 seconds, which drum heads do you use and why? 30 seconds. What is your snare, your kick, and your toms? Why do you use them, and what is the sound you're hoping to get out of them? Chip.
Go, Chip.
I wear an Aquarian Focus X on my snare drum head because it's a versatile drum head and can do multi-purpose, all kinds of range of sounds, from heavy metal, rock to jazz and fusion. And I use Force 10s on the batters, and those are like the double ply with the hydraulics in them. Classic clears on the bottom, and then I use a Super Kick 10 on my kit and an Aquarian regulator on the reso, and it just has a full deep impact. It's got the impact and it's got the tones and the subs to it. So I don't know if that was 30 seconds, but that's what I use. Perfect.
But Chip, what style of music do you use that for?
I use it for any. I have a well-rounded sound on my kit, and I just basically use that for clubs and live venues.
Rick, what about you?
Well, it really is going to depend on the kind of sound that I'm going for, depending on the music, whether it's going to be a more modern sound or more of a vintage sound. Mm-hmm. But hands down, I use the Super Kick 2 on all of my kick drums. But one of my kick drums on my Ludwig 24-inch kick drum, I have a modern vintage on the front head. And it sounds like a cannon, and you get that Bonham sound with the control. And it totally looks beautiful because I've got a drum light in it. So you see the light on the drum, in the drum, almost makes it look like you can see the color of the calf skin. So,
did you say you have a super kick on that one? You said you had a super kick on the batter side and the modern vintage on the front?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's like the best of both worlds. Cool. And then, for toms, I just really like Studio X. I just think that it's got a good open sound, but I use the reinforcement. And then I also like the Super 2s on the toms, which is a 2-ply head, and I like the Super 2 clear. Here's one. And what I like with this head is this second layer underneath, it just adds just a tad of muffling, and the sound is just so controlled. They're just so easy. So, I really like it. My studio, I feel like it should be a showroom for my students to come in and learn about sound. So to me, the fun of it all is the variety, and having all of these different sounds and having students be able to check out, well, this is what this sounds like, and that's what that sounds like. And then you can be really, really versatile as a player depending on the band. I do a lot of psychobilly, which is got double upright bass, and it's got a little root rock vibe with a punk vibe. So the modern vintage 2 works really well on the snare for that, and I could get a good low pitch if I need it too. So, what about you, Bart?
I got on all my kick drums, I got a Super Kick 1 on the batter side and a resonator on the regulator on the front. My main snare drum that I play for the gig or for the session 99% of the time has a Focus X on it. My side snare drum, depending on the gig, now might have one with the Super Kick on it, or if not, then it also has a Focus X, but it's a completely different drum. Like if I'm playing a metal drum, brass or stainless steel as my main drum. Then I'll have a wooden drum off to my left to get the two different sounds and different tuning. As far as the heads on the toms, I use classic clears with a white power dot and classic clears on the bottom. All my drums are internally mic'd with the microphones are on Kelly shoes, and I have Audix microphones. I'm an Audix endorser. I use an Audix mic on a D2 on my snare drum as well. Obviously, it's not inside the drum, but I have a little mount that's on my snare stand. It comes up. So I have a D2 on my snare, D2 on the 12-inch and the 14-inch tom, D4 on the 16, and a D6 in the kick drum. And I do that because in my kick drum, there's nothing in the kick drum, just the felt ring that's on the super kick and on the regulator. Nothing in the drum, wide open.
Nothing.
Same
here.
Yeah.
How about you, Jeremy?
Jeremy, what about you? What do you got?
I've got two primary kits that I use for different kinds of gigs. I've got my jazz kit, which is set up here in my home studio, my Brooks jazz kit, and I've got modern vintage. On the toms, I got modern vintage on the kick, on the batter heads, and I've got a texture coated on the snare. I want that sort of warm, really warm, very open sound. There's nothing inside the bass drum. But on my kit that I use for rock and funk and blues gigs, I've got a Super Kick 1 on the kick, which I just, that's the best sounding bass drum head I've ever been able to play. The Super Kick 2 I have on my studio, my teaching kit down at my teaching studio. It's a little more focused, a little more punch, but the Super Kick 1's just perfect for me.
Hey, Jeremy, is the modern vintage ported on your kit?
No.
Okay.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
There it is.
On
Nice.
your rock kit, Jeremy, is it a 22 or is it a 20 as well? Is that a 20 or an 18?
That's an 18 right behind me. On my rock kit, I've got a 20, and I do have a ported regulator on the Rezo side. Super Kick 1 on the batter. I use the focus. Not the response to Rick. What was the one you were saying? I'm spacing out. Super 2. Yeah, Super 2. I use Super 2 clears on my toms. I used to use the ones with the reinforcement ring that Rick was showing, but then I wanted a little bit different sound, a little bit more attack, so I got the ones without the reinforcement ring, which is pretty cool to make that head in both types. Classic clears on the bottoms, and I guess that's pretty much it. I did use the Studio X for the longest time. Love those heads. Studio X is like a thick 1-ply, where the other one that I use is the Super 2 is a little sort of a thin 2-ply. So there's that sort of balance between resonance and dullness, that I want the tom to sing a little bit, but I don't want too much crazy ringing going on. So I like that double ply for my rock gigs for sure. But yeah, I mean,
you know what's a great rock head too, guys, is the reflector. They have it in black. The black reflector. They have it in black. It's what's like looking up at the stars, and then they have it in the white ice look also. Yeah. And this is a great rock head too.
Is that a double ply?
And durable too.
It's amazing how many options we have available to us now that we didn't used to. Like drummers back in the day, there were there were calfskin heads before there were plastic and mylar heads.
Right.
And then in the early days, you didn't have a lot of options. And nowadays, God, you go to the store, there's like 50 different drum heads. I know for my students that they're completely overwhelmed. They have no idea what to do. So I always sort of steer them in the right direction for the type of music they play and the drum set they have. But for us as professionals, this is part of how we dial in our sound. This is part of how we have an idea in our heads about how we want the instrument to sound for the music we play. And so we outfit our kit with the heads that are going to produce that kind of sound.
Yes.
Jeremy,
I have a question. You have a question?
Yeah, I had a question for Jeremy. We had talked, Bart was talking about Dom Famulero, talking about the tools needed, using the right tool for the right situation. And I noticed you had a stick bag full of different implements of musical percussion. And I was wondering if you could take us through your stick bag and explain what you're using and why.
Chip, I would like nothing more than to give you guys a tour of my stick bag.
Yeah, look at that.
Boy,
those marshmallows?
Yeah, I got marshmallows. I got it in the pocket here. I got graham crackers and then chocolate in here, so I can.
Yeah.
What are those metal whisker things? What's the metal whisker?
Let's see.
Metal
And then you make a
whiskers.
fire like this.
The show has just gone terribly wrong.
So,
Metal whiskers and marshmallows.
that's what. Hey, listen. When in Rome, you're
Right, exactly.
So I've got several different pairs of brushes in my bag. I don't just use them for playing jazz. I also have a sort of a jazz pop group that I play with called Jen and the Charmers. I actually want to send you guys the CD for that band. It's really, really great group. And it's really light. It's really light. So I got to play with all sorts of textures on that gig and on that album. I think on the album, I use sticks on maybe like 4 or 5 out of 12 songs. The rest are brushes or rods or talawans or something else. Anyways, these are retractable brushes. These are Regal tip, the wire brushes. They have metal handle, rubber handle. They have a wood handle, the fixed brush. They have all different kinds. And they come, the brushes themselves are made in with metal, sometimes with plastic. And every one of them's got a slightly different sound on the drum set, on the snare drum especially. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this yet. Well, I'll talk you through the bag, then I'll go back to the kit and do a little demo. So I've got some brushes here. I've also got these. This is a relatively new product. Where'd it go? Oh yeah, these are really cool. These are called remix brushes. These are made of like African sawgrass from Vic Firth.
Wow.
And they're really, very, very soft and flexible, and they got a really light sound. So it's nice when you want to play just ultra light touch. Another ultra light. These are called broomsticks. Now, for what it's worth, I'm a Vic Firth guy. I'm a Vic Firth endorser, but I do have some other things in my bag that Vic Firth doesn't make. So I feel safe to say that I use these products as well. These are called broomsticks, and these are made out of straw, but there's enough of them so that when you get the sound on the cymbal, it's beefy enough to give you a little bit of a sound, but the attack is so ultra light you can barely hear it. You hear the kind of like almost like a mallet, and they're super thick. They're maybe an inch in diameter. Yeah. I enjoy these for sort of like, real quiet behind the sort of like train beat in the distance kind of thing.
Yeah.
And of course, you got rods of all different kinds. These are my favorite. Of course, there's a regular dowel rods just in a bundle, and these come in all different thicknesses and sizes that have a slightly different tone and texture. But these ones are my favorite. These are the Vic Firth they're called talawans, and I'm not even sure if they're still making them. Yeah. And these are essentially like a hot rod, but with a cotton or a foam core. So it doesn't have quite the same body of the sound. It's a little bit softer. So when I want to play in that band, Jen and the Charmers, and I want to really rock out, but I don't want to play with the volume, I'll use those because I get the attack of the rods on the snare and on the cymbal, but I don't get the beef behind it. And then, so,
I've got a funny story for you. I don't want to cut you off, Jeremy. But years ago, I did an audition for a band, and I know that they wanted an aggressive drummer, and but I knew the environment couldn't be too loud, so I used some rods, and I hit so hard and animated, and so I had that intensity visually, but I didn't have the volume there. Of course, most of this comes with dynamics and control. But having those rods totally helped. And then what was happening is the rods, I mean, I was hitting it still pretty hard. The rods would splinter a little bit. So they're seeing me drum, and there's like this bamboo flying everywhere. I got the gig. So I think those rods really help.
Oh, absolutely. I use the rods on most gigs at some point. These are some products I found at the NAMM show made by a company called Headhunters, and they make all these kind of hybrid implements. Jim Keltner is a big fan of these. I know he uses a lot of them. This is a brush that's got a plastic sort of rod that sticks out underneath. So if you want to go to your cymbal and get some definition on the cymbal, like a little bit of attack, you can get the sort of hit with the rod first, and then the brush hits afterwards. You'll hear it. I'll show you.
Man, I thought I saw that at an adult store once.
Oh,
you so bad.
See, I'm just sitting here and I didn't say anything. I just shut up. See how I did that?
Good job.
These are the best, my favorite mallets. These are actually timpani mallets. They do make mallets specific for drum set that usually are not as big, but they're more staccato, and I don't like them on the drums as much. But the timpani mallets tend to fray a lot more quickly on the drums, but it doesn't matter to me. So these are Tim Jennis signature mallets for Vic Firth. These are pretty pricey. They're $100 a pair, but man, these are the best feeling mallets I've ever used. Love them. Wow. I remember when I saw Elvin Jones play, he had these massive mallets, and I couldn't get over how big they were. There's cotton flying all over the place while he's playing. Okay, so that's all stuff that's not even sticks. We haven't even gotten to sticks yet, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, and you guys know, like, so when I'm playing, I go to a gig, no matter what band it is, I've got a stick bag that's full of several different kinds of pairs of sticks. Mm-hmm. I've seen drummers on gigs that have got a stick bag full of the same pair of sticks, like 10 pairs of 5A, and I don't understand that at all. It's like Bart was saying, you got to use the right tool for the right job, you know?
Right.
A painter, you got several different brushes for painting with different strokes, broad strokes, fat brush, detail work, thin brush, right? So when I'm playing light and I want a really quiet definition on the cymbal, I'm going to use these tiny little tips. These is the Peter Erskine signature model.
Oh, yeah. Those
are
great.
These are
some of my favorite sticks. I use these quite a bit.
Those are like a 7A, but they're the length of a 5A.
Yeah,
right?
They're a little thicker than a 7A, actually.
Are they?
Yeah, they compare thickness-wise with a 5A, I think. But they're light.
They're pretty long, though, right? They're longer. They're longer than like than a jazz stick.
Than a typical jazz stick.
Yeah.
Well, here's another. That's about the same, actually.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Here's you can see the difference in the tip shape here.
Yeah.
Or can you, like? There's a tiny little tip, and then there's kind of a mushroom tip on these SD10s. So when I'm playing blues or a shuffle, I want a little bit more attack on the cymbal, a little more beef and body. I'm going to use something a little bit fatter, a little heavier. 5As I use all the time as well for rock playing. Here's a 5A.
Cool.
Yeah, same length. You can see the tip shape. These are the GAD sticks, signature model. They've got a barrel tip, and each of the tip shapes gives you a slightly different articulation on the cymbal, which is kind of cool. So you're wanting different kinds of playing, different kinds of sounds to fit different styles. You know, if I'm playing funk, I'm going to use these. Rock, I'm going to use the SD10s or 5A. Jazz, I'm going to use the Peter Erskines. You know, just painting in broad strokes here. Do whatever you want, really. I use these a lot too. These are the SD2. They have a very tiny little tip, but they're really fat. A really fat handle. I've got big hands. And I like having a little bit fatter stick in my hand because it feels more comfortable because I have big hands. And these are super duper light, so I feel like I can get quite a nice action with these without a lot of volume because the tip is so small. I use these for a lot of stuff involving a lot of drum rolls, New Orleans playing, orchestral stuff. I'll use the SD2s a lot. Yeah, I mean, I've got a few other things in here, but really it's just kind of, I remember when I was younger, I would every time I'd go to the music store, I would look at like the bin of sticks and I would pull out every single pair of sticks and I'd play them on the pad and I'd try out the ones I liked and I'd take 4 or 5 home, get used to those, run them through some paces, and then, every time something new would come out, I'd buy it just to check it out. And some of them were kind of duds, like some brush things or that were like, these seemed like a good idea at the time, but I don't really like the way they feel or something. So I'd sort of throw them in the pile at my teaching studio where my students can check them out and have fun with them. But then the stuff that's keepers, I put in my bag that I take with me on my gigs, and then I've got everything I need for every situation.
That is great, Jeremy. I think. Oh, go ahead, Chip.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just wondering if you were getting ready to do a live show, and you had no idea what kind of music it was going to be, and you had to pick a pair of sticks out of that bag, what's your go-to stick?
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough, Chip, because if I don't know what style of music it is, it's like I don't know what tool to bring. So I'm probably going to bring something.
What's your most well-rounded pair?
I'm probably going to bring something middle of the road, here's the thing. I feel like I can dig in harder if I need to, right? So let's say I've got this jazz stick with me, right? And I need to play in a rock gig. Well, I can make it work. I'm going to hit it with the shoulder, on the hi-hat. I'm going to hit lots of rim shots, and I can dig in plenty hard with these to make it sound like it's going to work. But if I'm at a jazz gig and I've got 2B in my hand, oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm probably going to take these Peter Erskines just because that it gives me a little more margin for error.
Right
To
on.
go with a lighter
Good
stick.
answer.
Rick.
Good answer.
You know, I'm a Vic Firth artist also, Jeremy, and you know, it's just amazing, like Aquarian, the variety of models that they have to fit each drummer and each style and volume is just astounding. And it's fun. It's one of the fun parts about being a drummer. And so I have like I'm not a store at my teaching studio, but I have a box, but you know, a container, and I've got a million different Vic Firth sticks. And it's just so fun to work with a student trying different sticks. Sometimes people aren't getting something, and I'm like, man, let's try switching sticks. And suddenly they get it, you know? And I think gear education is such a part of being an instructor. And I think for students, you know, ask your teacher about gear. It's interesting, you know, if the paradiddle is like, and your lesson is getting boring, I don't see any problem with talking about, well, what cymbals do you use? And so the gear is a big part of it. Look at that.
And you know, one of the things we didn't mention about these different sticks, aside from the tip sound and the articulation, is the weight and the balance is different in every pair.
Oh yeah,
so, you get a different neck and a different degree of taper on each stick, and it feels different in your hand. And that's part of why these guys have their signature models, because this is the way they wanted their stick to be balanced. They went to Steve Gadd and said, "Hey man, what's your perfect stick that works for you?" And he came up with this one, and then they sold it. It turns out it works for lots of folks. But you know, there's no right or wrong about this. That's kind of the thing. Back when I first started playing, there were 5A, 7A, 3A, and 2B.
2B,
that was it.
Right.
And 4 options, and now there's like hundreds. So you know, that what a great thing for us that we can pick and choose all these, you know, subtly different things to be able to play and feel just the way we want to.
Yeah, Jan Bass said sticks also fitting the player's physicality, big hands, little hands, short arms, etc.
Yeah. Well, I was mentioning before that I have really big hands, so I tend to like a fatter stick. You know, so I don't use 7As a whole lot. The Peter Erskines are a nice balance for me. The SD2s are really good for me. But absolutely, you know, I'm not going to. And you know, if you're a heavy rock drummer, you want 5Bs or something that's got some muscle behind it, so you can work so hard to get the beef. But absolutely, figuring it, sizing sticks to people's hands and their physicality, I think that makes total sense.
Yeah,
that's right.
Can you go ahead and show us the difference in some of those?
Oh yeah, okay. You guys talk amongst yourselves while I go get set up.
While you're walking back there, what I want to say is what David Betts said. I think too that we haven't touched on, and I tell you what, this is a whole show in and of itself.
Yeah, it is.
You know, he said, "I'm all for studio rings, moon gels, etc." But you think we, as drummers, still need to know how to tune our drums? And he is, yes, absolutely, David. Great question. I mean, my God, we could, you know, I do I do believe that we need to. You got to know how to tune your instrument. I mean, if you're playing guitar and you go into a guitar lesson, the very first thing you do in the guitar lesson is tune the guitar, right? So knowing how to tune your drums and getting them to work.
One of the things that I use and I also endorse is a drum dial. And what that does is measure the tension of the head, and it gives you an exact reading and a number of each lug placement, so you can dial your drum in and match every single lug. And it's a great teaching tool. It really helps you learn how to tune the drum. So if you're not familiar with it, go check out the drum dial. It can really save you a lot of time when tuning your drums.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're also going to see that so many people have different approaches to tuning. It's always so interesting, and it might be style and it might be preference as well.
And feel too, the way the drum feels.
Show us first, Jeremy, what's on deck first?
Okay, so what I thought I might start with is a demonstration of 3 different types of rods. So here are your classic Here's your classic hot rods. I don't know. I've got everything mic'd up. I'm not sure how well you guys will be able to distinguish the difference between things. It's really obvious to me here live in the room, but you tell me if you can notice these. So here's on the snare. Now, here's a groove. It's a sort of more straightforward. Now,
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll take that same thing, but I'll do them with these a different pair of rods that are thinner and denser, and you should hear a little bit more attack.
Yep.
I do.
Yeah.
Can you hear the difference?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
You
And
know
then
what I'm
here's-
hearing? I'm hearing a nice. You're getting a good response out of it, like a good multi-stroke. It sounds like you're not. It sounds great.
Yeah, certainly the stiffer they are, the more stick-like, the more responsive they are. So the less you got to use your fingers to get the action going.
Yeah.
And then lastly, on the rods, this is a pair of those Talawans with the cotton center. So these will be a much quieter.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
Pretty different
Nice.
sounding, yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
So that's just with 3 different pairs of rods. What a range of tonalities and response you can get. Let's see.
Hey, play
Here's
play those brooms. Play the ones you called the
broomsticks. Yeah, check out
the
these brooms.
broomstick.
Yeah.
Let me hear those. Wow.
Nice.
Those are awesome.
Boy, that's
Hey,
so
play
subtle
you
on
said
the
you said like a train beat in the background. Play a train beat. Let me hear a train.
Way of life on the farm is kind of laid back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta get some of those. Those are great.
That's
I gotta
cool,
get some.
Jeremy.
Right. So these are you really hear very little attack. Like you hear the sound of the drum coming through, but there's no ta at the beginning of it, right? With what's the difference between these dense rods and then the broom?
How do they feel?
Well, they're fat. You kind of get used to them because they're so fat, but they're ultra light. So it's kind of like playing with, I don't know, cardboard tubes,
That's
weird.
cool.
Yeah. It takes a little getting used to, but it's not like you're using them for complex jazz or fusion. So it's not like you got to execute all sorts of crazy, finger technique or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, those are those. Let's see. So remember I was telling you about that brush with the plastic rod underneath?
Yeah.
Well, here's the brush by itself. If you flip it over, you just get a normal brush. But then you turn it over and get the rod underneath.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Does it kind of feel
Wow.
fun? Does it feel weird? I mean, I would
Yeah,
think with that.
Definitely. These anytime you start with something new that's got a different hand feeling, you know what I
Yeah.
mean by that? Like a different feeling or shape or weight or balance in your hands. It takes some
Totally.
getting used to. And I don't just take, if I buy something oddball like this, it's not just like a regular pair of sticks. I'm not just going to buy it and then take it out on the gig. I'm going to practice with it and just really
Yeah.
get a feeling for it. And how can I execute and any adjustments I need to make to be able to play the way I want to play with these things. Cause some of them feel unusual in your hands.
I bet.
Yeah. So,
Very
and then
cool.
I'm not sure how much you'll be able to hear the difference in sticks. But here's the Peter Erskine jazz ride stick.
Mm-hmm.
Compared with a 5A.
Oh yeah, you can totally hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely.
And here's the SG2 with that really little pea-sized tip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like that
Real
one
subtle.
best.
Play the GAD one. I bet that one's loud.
And here's the GAD.
Oh yeah.
Much louder.
Much
Play
louder.
2 in one hand.
What's that?
Play 2 in one hand.
Oh, here I got some for you, Rick. I know you'll like this one. Here's 2 in one hand for you.
All right.
Uh-oh. What do
Here
we
we
got
go.
going here?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Here we go.
All right. Late in the evening. Dun, dun, dun. There's your gad. There's the Mozambique. Nice
What a
Mozambique, man.
stud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn, my hat's
That's
off, man. That was
beautiful.
badass,
Very cool.
bro.
That is beautiful.
Hey, so Rick,
Way
you
to
got
go.
a bunch of heads over there. Can you take us through a little tour of what heads you have in your office there with you, and explain why the choice is there?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I like to do is with a student when they come in, they're usually gonna if they buy a new drum set, the first thing they usually say is, "Oh man, my new drum set that I just spent $2,000 on does not sound like any of yours."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, that's because, well, obviously technique and stick choice and muffling are a factor. But the drum head is so vital to the sound. And so what I like to do is help my students pick out what's the right head for them, for their style, for their, even for their look. Because I think, especially for a younger drummer, having an instrument that you dig the way it looks, that's going to make you play more. And I think that's a real factor. And then what kind of
if
finish?
it sounds better, you're likely to practice more too.
Exactly.
Most definitely.
And that's it, Chip. Any practice is good practice. So my favorite, let me see if you guys can catch this, what this one is. Bart, you know what this one is, don't you?
That's the Aquarian mesh head, man.
That's
yeah,
That's
baby.
Right. I never sounded better. You can't hear me play. That's the one. That's the one I like. Parents of drummers like that the best. And yeah,
dude, when I play, you know what? I agree with you, Rick. When I play those things, I sound better. I never,
That's it. And so what's really always interesting is when the student buys a new head or gets new heads. I like take the old heads off, and 9 times out of 10, even if the heads are new, on those drum kits that they buy, we'll take the head off and we'll do the tap test, and I'm sure Roy Burns showed you guys all the tap tests.
Oh yeah.
Most often when somebody buys a new drum set, they come with heads that are made as cheap as possible and very thin and tinty sounding.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The drum companies are trying to save money by putting cheap heads on it, and they know you're going to replace them anyway. So it'll sound a bit better right away if you get a new set of heads on your new kit.
Exactly, instantly, right away, because there's nothing so deflating as spending all of that money and then not having your drums sound good. And a lot of times my students will say, "Hey, can I bring my drums in for you to do a tuning session?"
Yeah.
And I just plead with them, get new heads, and I'm going to take you through the entire process. We're going to have a whole tuning lesson, and then we spend a good amount of time talking about what's the right head for them, and then do that. This is that reflector. I mean, can you guys hear the note?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that sucker is round, and so then I like to just look at it and say, well, is a clear head the right choice? Is it the right look too? Because look is super important. If you have a shell that looks beautiful, it's kind of cool to look inside the drum and see a beautiful, like my pearl mahogany with my Super 2. I mean, look at the beautiful drum inside.
Look at that beautiful drum.
I mean, it's a shame to cover that up and not be able to see it. So
you're right.
Hey, Rick, can I interject this? One of the things too about the clear head, I use the classic clears because of the sound, right? I want that open sound. But the other thing I had mentioned that all my drums are internally mic'd, and every once in a while, mic, falls over, and you can look in there and oh no, and you got to, get in there and fix it. So if you, for the guys that are playing, have been playing for a while, let's say you do have your mics, your drums internally mic'd, you can see the mic, you can check on the mic. And I know that's a big if, but it happens. It is something to be aware of. Sorry, Rick. I didn't mean
to a factor. No, that's a really, really good point, Bart. You could see what's going on with that mic too. So
I mean, even if it's not a mic, a lug comes off or something, a screw comes out. It happens.
Yeah. And so here's the performance too. This is a 2-ply head. So I think it's really important to start understanding whether your head is a single ply head, 1 layer of plastic, a double ply head.
What's the difference in the sound between a single and a double?
All right. Well, I tend to find, and anybody can contribute on this, I tend to find that the single ply is a little bit more open sounding, and the 2-ply is a little bit more muffled sounding. Maybe a little lower pitch with the 2-ply heads. But what you get is the durability with the 2-ply, and you don't have as many overtones with the 2-ply. So I tend to find that the 2-ply heads like kind of easy to tune. That's why I like those Super 2 clears.
So you brought up some excellent points, all of which I agree with, but it makes it sound from your description that 2-ply heads are better than single-ply heads. However, the advantage of single-ply heads is that you get a quicker response out of it, and so you can play with a lighter touch on a single-ply head and still get a sound happening. So jazz players tend to like to play on a single-ply head because they're more responsive, whereas rock drummers want that deep, dark, wet tom sound, do-doom, do-doom, so you play with the double plies.
Exactly. Like if you're going to do some diddles on your toms, your modern vintage that you play is ideal, right? Exactly, Jeremy. You can really get that staccato stick attack with a single ply head. So,
articulate.
Or more articulation. Right?
Articulation. So there's a real lot to consider. And I think one of the fun things about drumming is experimenting with all of this.
Yeah.
When I gotta say this story. When I first got my Aquarian endorsement, I went through their catalog and ordered a 10-inch head of every single tom head that they made. So and then I put them each one on my tom, played it, recorded it, put the next one on, tuned it up, and played it, and found out what sound I wanted. Got to know the whole range of stuff.
Jeremy, that's a beautiful idea. And I've had some students do that who really weren't sure. I said, well, then each of these heads, it might respond differently on your drums. This guy might sound different on my Gretsch than on my Ludwig, than on my DW. So just because it sounds one way on my set, it's not going to mean it's going to sound that. It doesn't etch in stone that it's going to sound like that on my student's drum kit. So I think I've suggested that a bunch of my students have done that. They've bought like 4 different 10-inch drum heads, and then go with the best. So, So, and then hopefully all of you students out there are just going to get so addicted to this. It's so fun. It's one of the things why we've got such a great drumming community, because all of us, we have so much to talk about as drummers. The gear is just so fascinating, and how it's constructed and how it sounds. And you've got a big community out there to share all these ideas with.
Guys, can I jump in with one more quick one that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention?
Yeah.
So there's this product made by a company called Snare Weight, and this is just a leather tab. Right, you can see it's very flimsy, and it clips onto your drum like this. And it acts like a gel or a dampening ring, and you can just flip it on the drum where it dampens it, or you can flip it up and have it off. So it's like magnetized on or off.
Wow.
And it's even got these other settings where you can do half of it. You can fold it over and you get 2/3 of it. Even fold the other piece, and you get 1/3 of it. So that's like 3 options: 1/3, 2/3, or the full 2/3, or the full thing, or nothing at all, just like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you can really hear the difference. Wow. How thick is the leather? You said it's leather?
Yeah, they're leather. It's really thin.
Yeah. Wow.
That's cool.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, they come in brown, black, and white. and they have different sizes as well.
That's hip,
Big-
man.
Big
Wow.
fan.
Very hip.
Wow. So do we have a giveaway?
We do. I'm going to give away all the. I'm going to give away a thing of tone tabs. I'm going to give away 2 Duradots, a kick patch, and the head, whichever head they want off of my snare drum. I got a Focus X. I got a single ply coated. I got a triple threat. I got a modern vintage, and I got a super kick 2. And if somebody picks my super kick 2, I'm going to be really pissed.
Jim Royal in the house.
What's that?
Hi, Jim Royal.
Hey, Jim.
Jim, hey, Jim won last week. Jim, your head's on its way. Your head's on its way. So yeah, we got to give a head away. So Chip, since you're monitoring Facebook, why don't you pick a winner?
Jan Bass.
All right.
Jan Bass. Awesome.
Nice.
Okay. All right. So here's what we'll do.
Jan, shoot me an email. Just let me know which head you want, and I'll send it over to Bart. He'll send it to the Aquarian guys.
Actually, Jan, I'm going to pull it off of this drum. Chris and I talked about that. I should have said that. I'm going to mail it out. I'm going to mail it out. So you'll get all that stuff. So just pick which one you want. Super Kick, Focus X, single ply coated, triple threat. That was the one on the first one I played, the cut where I attempted GAD. Or the
Jim, thank you guys.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
And then Jeremy has to go and play GAD and just kill me. I mean, come on.
No, man.
That was great,
awesome.
man. That was great, Jeremy. You killed it, man. That was awesome, buddy. That was
Thanks,
great.
pal. I can't wait till we can do this in person, you guys.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be
awesome. Can't wait.
Super, super fun. So
Jan wants a super kick. Darn it.
Oh!
I'm so mad right now.
Oh, man.
No worries, Jan.
So I think we're off next week. I think we're going to take our spring break on next Tuesday.
Right.
And that was episode 27, all wrapped up. And we've been going strong since this summer, since the inception of Drummers Education Connection. So really, everybody, thanks for watching. We really, really appreciate it. And let us know if there's a topic that you'd like to see us cover. We're really, really happy to do it.
Oh,
and
that reminds me, the week after, when we come back on the 13th, we're going to have Jim Toscano as our guest.
Yeah.
The technology guy. That's going to be really, really great.
And then the week after that, we have my buddy Mitch Marine, and Mitch plays for Dwight Yoakam. So
awesome.
Great
and
guy.
All you drum teachers out there, we want to have you all on at one point or another. So we apologize if we haven't been able to have you on. But we're going to do some all hands on decks down the road too, where we're going to get a lot of us all together having a nice conversation and sharing ideas. And
I want to get
really,
Bobby
really appreciate
on.
it.
I want to get Bobby A on because I hope he sends us pizza.
The pizza guy.
The
Pizza
guy.
guy. Yeah. There it is. Hey. So, hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We really, really appreciate it. And you guys I learned something every time we have a show from all of you. And you're the greatest guys in the world and the greatest drummers. And we really appreciate it so much, everybody out there. So thanks for watching.
Thank you,
everybody. Thank you.
Woo-hoo. Take care,
Thank you,
guys.
Aquarian Drumheads. Jan, you're getting my super kick.